With the season quickly approaching, I think it's time to talk about 5 players that I'm not so confident in. But before I get to that, let me just say I'm not rooting against anyone's success. I just think that there are warning signs with these players and that we should temper expectations. So, let's get this show on the road. Here's 5 players that I dislike for the 2021 season. Starling Marte has had a great career up to this point. Since his first full season in 2013, he has the 10th most F4 of any outfielder. He's accomplished this by hitting for average, stealing a ton of bases, showing some pop, and playing acceptable center field defense. But I have serious concerns going forward. His 2020 stats were fairly normal, but his skills declined throughout the season. In Arizona, he struck out 14% of the time and walked 7% of the time. In Miami, he struck out 20% of the time and walked 2% of the time. His expected WOBA over his final 100 plate appearances was .280. My fear with Marte is that he regresses to being a league average hitter. And while his speed hasn't decreased yet, it soon may. He's 32 years old. The worst case scenario for Marte would be to become a tweener, someone who doesn't defend well enough to play center and doesn't hit well enough to play a corner spot. The same thing happened to Adam Jones around this age, and he was out of the league soon after. Juxtaposing the 32-year-old Marte is Ryan Mountcastle, a perennial top 100 prospect who not only finished 8th in AL Rookie of the Year voting last season, but is somehow still eligible for this year's award. In fact, Vegas gives him the 4th best odds to win in 2021. Last season, he had a .333 batting average, .386 on base percentage, and .492 slugging percentage. You don't need me to tell you that won't continue, but I'm fearing a major correction in Mountcastle's case. That .333 batting average is coming way down. He BABIP'd .398. Had he BABIP'd .320, he would have hit .277. That on-base percentage is coming down. He walked in 8% of his plate appearances, but never walked that much in the minors and remained a really aggressive hitter in the majors. And that slugging percentage is coming down too. His average exit velocity was in the 26th percentile, and the launch angle distribution wasn't elite or anything. His defense is highly suspect as well, as Mountcastle doesn't have a true position. If you're looking for the 2021 AL Rookie of the Year, you should probably look elsewhere. My biggest fear with Zach Davies is that he's a ground ball pitcher who doesn't get ground balls. After posting elite ground ball rates early in his career, Davies now has posted a slightly below average ground ball rate and slightly above average fly ball rate in the past couple seasons. His 22% K rate and 10% swinging strike rate were close to league average, a bit surprising for a soft tosser without crazy movement. But I still think Davies will have to prevent loud contact to be good. That didn't happen in 2020. Over 10% of his batted balls allowed were barreled, and although his home run rate didn't balloon, he had a few fly balls just miss in Petco that very well could go out in Wrigley. After all, his slugging percentage allowed on fly balls was .450, but his expected slugging percentage allowed on fly balls was .722. That was one of the highest differentials in the league. It just seems like it'll be difficult for Davies to maintain good ratios with the Cubs. He may have a 3.30 ERA over his last 2 seasons, but we should temper expectations going forward. Frankie Montas is a pitcher that everyone wants to like, because he has looked brilliant at times. He dominated 2019 before his PED suspension, putting up an ERA and FIP below 3 in 15 starts. He was excellent to start 2020 as well, but struggled after a blow-up start versus Arizona on August 18th. Still, he struck out more than 10 batters per 9. That's encouraging, right? It's tough to say. His swinging strike rate was good, but not elite. He also gave up fly balls as often as ground balls in 2020, which is a bit frightening for a sinker baller. His walk rate and barrel rate were also below the league average. I know I'm basically just repeating last year's numbers when we're talking about 2021, but I'm not seeing any indication that Montas is worth getting super excited over. I think he'll be a fairly average pitcher that just happens to get a lot of strikeouts and cool pitching ninja posts. The projection systems and fantasy rankings see him as a top 50 starting pitcher. I disagree. It is time for a reliever pick, and I will go with Brad Hand. Hand has been a consistent stud. He's been among the best relievers in the game for the last 5 seasons now, and he dominated in 2020 with some ridiculous ratios. 29 strikeouts, 4 walks, and 0 home runs allowed in 22 innings. Rather than take on Hand's $10 million option, Cleveland waived him to save money. Washington ended up signing Hand for 1 year and $10.5 million. Ball clubs are crying poor right now, but you'd think that someone with Hand's history would have gotten multiple years on a deal. Despite giving up 0 home runs, Hand gave up the 5th highest fly ball rate of any pitcher with at least 20 innings, and he lost a tick on his fastball velocity for the 2nd season in a row. His four-seamer had a 20% whiff rate in 2019. In 2020, 9.4%. He tried to combat that by throwing his sinker more, but it got hit pretty hard. Hand's slider is elite, and it should still keep him productive, but if there's one top-tier reliever to be weary of, it's probably him. Well, there you have it. Again, I'm rooting for all of these players to do well, I just have some concerns. Thankfully, the season is just around the corner, and if you want to support Foolish Bailey, Foolish Baseball, Baseball Bits, etc. during the 2021 season, hit me up on my Patreon, patreon.com/foolishbaseball. It's on one of these sides of me, I can't really remember which one.